Hello, everyone. We are back. This is the second session. Those of you who have joined just now, welcome to the Scholars in Blockchain International Symposium, hosted by the British Blockchain Association. My name is Naseem Naqvi. I'm the founder and president of the British Blockchain Association and editor-in-chief of our journal. We are very pleased to host this world's first Professors in Blockchain Symposium, bringing together academics and practitioners on one platform to share their expert insights and guidance with us. We had an excellent session this morning with Chris Berg, John Flood, and Sushmita from Australia. We have 10 sessions in this symposium. This is session 1B. This symposium is recorded, and the recording will be available on demand afterwards to the panelists and attendees. We have asked the speakers to talk about themselves, so introduce themselves, their institution, and the blockchain education and research opportunities that are offered by their university, their department, and also any advice they have, any suggestions, any tips for blockchain and crypto researchers. I would like to invite Professor Locknie Hsu to share some insights with us from Singapore. Thank you very much. Thanks, Locknie.
Thank you very much, and good morning to you. I'm very pleased to meet you. Thank you very much for inviting me to speak a little bit during this symposium. I was pleasantly surprised when I was invited because I feel like an interloper. I'm neither a technologist or an economist. I listened to some of the earlier presentations, which were really helpful and impressive. I'm a law professor in Singapore at the law school in the Singapore Management University. We only have 3 law schools in Singapore. It's one of the 3, excuse me. So perhaps in the very brief time that I'm given, let me do 2 things. The first is just to explain a little bit what I work in, and then the specific issues of research and relatedly teaching that I am involved in. So in teaching law at the law school, I started a course a few years ago called Law and Digital Commerce. And it was begun because I felt there was a strong need for lawyers not to look like a deer in headlights when they talk about technology and different types of applications, which their clients in time to come might come to them to discuss. So the course is run in such a way that there is a high content requiring the students to interact with industry professionals, not just with the professor, i.e. myself. So they get to interact with a number of professionals from our central bank, from technology companies, from accounting firms, from entrepreneurs, and the whole gamut, basically, as far as I can get people to talk to them. And the objective of the course is to introduce them to technologies such as blockchain, which is most relevant to what we are talking about here today. We also delve into issues of AI and so on, but for the blockchain part in particular, students are invited to look at how blockchain applications are being used and what some of the nascent legal issues surrounding such use might be. And I'll talk a little bit more about this in a moment. So the first thing I wanted to share is this course, which gives a sort of a avenue for students to learn about blockchain applications and the legal ramifications, if any, legal gaps, and what they can perhaps propose as their research. So the second thing I'm involved in is research on the use of blockchain in cross-border trade, because the blockchain and, well, DLT in general is a great value proposition in providing a lot of the features required for trustworthy documents in international trade. When you trade across borders, you need to have some kind of trust in documents such as your bills of lading, which are documents of title, which hopefully shouldn't be easily forged or have multiple copies of floating around. So blockchain provides a tremendous value proposition for that kind of problem. And relatedly, because there is a model law that the UK and most recently France has adopted, and Singapore was one of the early adopters on facilitating the use of blockchain in documents of title in trade. So that's, for those who are interested, it's called the Model Law on Electronic Transferable Records, and the UK most recently came up, I think, in 2023 with the Electronic Trade Documents Act. So more countries hopefully will join, and so there will be an infrastructure legally to support and facilitate the recognition of such blockchain-based paperless documents, digital documents. The third thing that I'm involved in is actually I'm in the editorial board of an international journal of blockchain law, and that's not a traditional academic journal. It's meant to provide quick snapshots to people who are busy looking at the latest developments in blockchain law specifically. So not the technology part necessarily, but legal developments. So that's a very interesting portfolio as well. Now, specifically what I'm doing in terms of the studies on use of blockchain in international trade, maybe I can just share an idea or two here. One of the issues is how do we use, for example, trade agreements, which Singapore and UK have and other countries have, to help promote the use of laws and mechanisms that would support and facilitate the use of blockchain so that there's trust in these systems as parties trade across borders. We are beginning to see in several of these economic or trade agreements provisions called e-commerce provisions. To me, that's kind of an old-fashioned term. I prefer to call them digital commerce provisions. And in these agreements, you will find they are beginning to contain provisions on rules and norms in terms of the use of technology, and also collaboration. And the collaboration part is useful because if we're talking about facilitating the use of blockchain through more seamless and less fragmented laws, this is a good avenue to explore, to try to have agreements where countries come together and say, well, let's agree on what these terms mean, what these blockchain applications should do, or we will allow certain things to happen in our countries once we sign the agreement with each other, and so on. So that's largely what I look at. The last thing is related to what I mentioned about the model law that facilitates the use of electronic trade documents. That's beginning to appear in some of the trade agreements as well. So that's something that I'm keeping an eye on and trying to do a little bit of study on. So I guess I would just leave it at that. If anyone has questions, maybe the last point I can share is that in the course that I mentioned, Law and Digital Commerce, I also interact with my colleague from SMU, my university, from the School of Computing and Information Sciences, who is a blockchain expert, not in the law school. So he crosses over and we interact with the students in my class as well. So there's opportunity for conversations across schools in relation to blockchain in my university. So perhaps I just leave it at that. Is that okay, Professor Naseem?
Yes, excellent. Thank you, Locknie. That was a very, very good overview. And
Thank you.
I'm sure audience may have some questions about the trade document, the blockchain for trade provisions in Singapore. Anybody got any questions right now? I'm just checking. Okay, I think Professor Mungur is here from Mauritius, so we can have him and then we'll take questions after that. Avinash?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Am I?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes, please go ahead. Yes.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you for our last presenter. A nice exposure on the cross-border flow of information. So first of all, good day to everyone. So I would like to thank the British Blockchain Association for inviting me for this particular session. So let me introduce myself. Well, I'm Avinash. I'm from the Faculty of Information, Communication and Digital Technology. I'm currently under the ICT department at the University of Mauritius. So University of Mauritius is found on a small island called Mauritius in the Indian Ocean. And as such, we are one of the leading public university on the island. Now, let me elaborate on some of the initiatives that we at the department have undertaken to introduce blockchain technology in our program. At the ICT department, we offer an undergraduate program, which is a computer science program. It is a very short program because we have an annual intake of 120 students. As a result, we need to showcase, well, not showcase, but we need to introduce such innovative, emerging, as well as disruptive technology to our students. We've recently revamped our computer science program so that we can include modules of blockchain. Furthermore, as a former head of department, I've initiated what is known as the Emerging Technology Seminar, where every week we invite industry members to share their experience and knowledge in such technology, especially the blockchain technology. Also, I would like to point out that recently I've personally mounted a training in artificial intelligence, machine learning, and blockchain in association with Oracle company from Romania, which was funded by our Human Resource Development Council here in Mauritius, because we need to skills our students in this particular technology, because there is a very large demand for such emerging technology in Mauritius. And it was as a tune of $190. And in fact, we've trained the student in a 3 months training whereby there was specific case study designed with blockchain for the Mauritian market. And in terms of in an interdisciplinary approach, our department is working closely with the Faculty of Management, a little bit like our last presenter mentioned, with the Faculty of Department to mount specific programs such as FinTech program to introduce blockchain in such interdisciplinary program, as well as with the Faculty of Agriculture, because Mauritius principally has a strong agricultural sector, but however, we need to innovate, and as such, we are working with the Faculty of Agriculture in order to use blockchain technology, especially in terms of traceability aspect from where those food come from up until the customer. So we are very much involved in terms of such program. And also for creating awareness with regards to emerging technology. At the University of Mauritius, and especially at my faculty, we've recently organized our NextCom conference. It's an annual conference whereby we've invited panelists from the Bank of Mauritius, as well as international speakers to speak about those emerging technology. And furthermore, we do focus on the Train the Trainer program, whereby we invite industry members, and especially from recently from the IBM company, to train faculty members to get in touch with latest technology, whereby I myself am a certified IBM blockchain developer. So just to get in touch with blockchain. And in terms of research aspect, I'm currently supervising a PhD candidate with regards to using blockchain-based micro-credential system, whereby if we are moving from different universities, how do we trace those units, those credits that are being moved from one university to another? Because it's very important to know whereby those credits come from, because sometimes we get some, well, I won't say dubious universities, but in fact, in terms of mobility, because students from our university goes to the UK, or from the Erasmus program, students come from our university. But how do we ascertain the movement of those credits, those modules that the student has taken up on? So I'm currently supervising student, and one aspect that we are looking at is with regard to the zero knowledge proof security aspect. So this is what I'm currently working upon with this PhD candidate. So I will just stop over here so that I won't take too much time, but this is to give you a brief idea of what we are doing here on this small island of Mauritius. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Avinash. That was an excellent overview. You're doing some really exciting things in Mauritius, educational micro-credentialing, and I'm very pleased to hear about all the initiatives. So we'll have Sadek Ferdous from Bangladesh. Sadek, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes.
So am I audible?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. And good afternoon, everyone. At first, I would like to thank the British Blockchain Association for this wonderful initiative and for inviting me to talk about myself and my research work. So I'm Dr. Mohammad Sadek Ferdous. I'm a professor of computer science and engineering at BRAC University in Bangladesh. I'm also an honorary research fellow at the Institute for Security Science and Technology of Imperial College London. I completed my PhD on identity management from the University of Glasgow. And afterwards, I did a number of postdocs at different UK universities, including Imperial College London, before moving back to Bangladesh and joining at a university in Bangladesh called Shah Jalan University. In that university, I established the Bangladesh's first blockchain-based or blockchain-focused research group called SubCell. In my current university, we are in the process of establishing a blockchain academy in collaboration with a blockchain company in Turkey. And in our university also, we have been offering a blockchain course at the undergraduate level for almost 2.5 years. So it was another first thing to happen in Bangladesh. I have been involved with blockchain-based research and development since 2015. So it has been for almost 10 years now. My research interest lies in the intersection of blockchain, identity, security, and trust management. However, in the last 2 years, I'm mostly focusing on decentralized identity, particularly self-sovereign identity or SSI. And I have published almost 40+ research articles in the intersection of those research domains. I also had the opportunity to work with the government, both at the UK and in Bangladesh. While at the UK, I led a blockchain project, which was a joint project with the UK Cabinet Office in the UK Ministry of Justice and the UK Police, where I investigated how blockchain could be leveraged to secure digital evidences. Say, for example, UK police or many polices around the world, now they collect a lot of digital evidences. And when those digital evidences are presented at the court, the defense lawyer actually question regarding the integrity of those digital evidences. So we explored how blockchain could be utilized in that scenario. While in Bangladesh, I was the principal author of National Blockchain Strategy document. And I also write a number of policy documents on different blockchain use cases for the government. I also own a blockchain and SSI consultancy company based in London in the UK. My company and the Center for Financial Technology of Imperial College London have jointly researched and developed a blockchain-based secure email system. And we are hoping to commercialize the solution as a product in the next year. In that solution, actually, we tried to use blockchain to counteract a notorious attack on email called blockchain business email compromise attack. So we are trying to target or mitigate that particular attack. In that company, we are also investigating to create a passwordless authentication mechanism using SSI. So if you might be aware that there is an initiative from the W3C consortium known as the WebAuthn protocol. So they are trying to replace passwords using actually some sort of wallet and with the intersection of public key and private key. So our product or our solution will be very similar to that, but there are some other additional aspect to that. Say, for example, in the WebAuthn solution, they do not have any mechanism to establish trust between different entities. So, but SSI has this notion of trust building process. So we are investigating how we can actually integrate with passwordless authentication. So we are also hoping to launch a product, hopefully within next year. So in short, I would say that I had a very unique and rare opportunity to get involved in different capacities, in different initiatives for the academia, for the government, and also for the industry. And I would be happy to collaborate with anyone interested to pursue or collaborate on research on SSI and blockchain. Thank you very much. I will stop here.
Thank you very much. This was Sadek Ferdous from Bangladesh. Next, we have Professor Sandeep Shukla from India. Sandeep, can you hear us?
Yes. So hello, everybody. So thank you, Naseem and others at BBA for inviting me. So I am Sandeep Shukla. I am a professor at the Indian Institute of Technology, Kanpur, and I ran the National Blockchain Project from 2018 to 23, which was a national level project for looking at possible usage of blockchain technology in e-governance and for creating trusted services for from the government side. And then right now I have started a new project on cryptocurrency forensics, which basically is required for compliance as well as for crypto crime investigation and so on. And we have developed an indigenous tool for this cryptocurrency forensic. But in the realm of blockchain technology, we are also looking at self-sovereign identity. We have a self-sovereign identity-based solution since 2021, and our self-sovereign identity solution has been used for providing degrees for IIT Kanpur, IIT Indore, recently IIT Jaipur, Jodhpur, NIT, Rourkela, and other universities, as well as the National Skill Development Corporation, which gives a very large number of skilling certificates. We also have worked on registry of land records, transactions of land records, in fact, on blockchain, and that is a solution that we had done in 2020 to 2021 at the state of Karnataka in India, where 6 districts were actually moved to this blockchain-based recording of hashes of the deeds, as well as creating cryptographic identities of the main subjects and so on. Unfortunately, that project has not proceeded beyond 6 districts. Reasons which is not related to technology, but more to do with willingness. But we also did some work on for the same government, Karnataka, for e-procurement solutions, where various procurement vendors were onboarded and the banks were onboarded on the same platform, which is mediated through a blockchain platform. And in order to have transparency and in order to receive information across various states about a particular vendor in an authentic manner, so that a vendor cannot do something strange in one jurisdiction and then go and open shop in the other jurisdiction and so on. There is a recent project that we did for the city of Kanpur, which is a transferable development rights, or TDR, on blockchain as tokenized entity digital tokens. So the idea was that whenever government takes your land, they used to earlier give you monetary compensation, but now they are more interested in giving you a digital transferable rights in a digital form, which you actually could use elsewhere, and also you can actually sell that right to somebody else. And it turns out that in other jurisdictions in India where this thing was introduced, this was mostly paper-based certificates, and what happened is it was cornered by middlemen, and so the price discovery was not happening. So the blockchain, having tokenized it on a blockchain, it provides the opportunity not only for integrity and all that other things that you get from blockchain, but also you can create a market through price discovery mechanism. I was also involved very much in the Indian central bank digital currency in the role of technology advisory committee member, and we actually have been working quite closely with the development of the CBDC, and its various other technological solutions such as anonymity and privacy and things like that. Other than that, we have done other smaller projects, like, for example, healthcare, blockchain, and we actually also started doing work on work on developing a social media, basically, which is totally decentralized with the ownership of the content being with the creators, rather than being used in a centralized platform like Facebook or Google or anything. That is one project where we basically demonstrated what are the problems with respect to scalability of such systems to actually really be widespread. The other than these things, we recently started a project with the Norway government. So it's mostly a mobility project where people from Norway would come to India, and Indian students will go to Norway for blockchain related courses and content. And we also started another mobility project with the University of Ulster in Ireland, where it's also a mobility project, but it's more related to medical information sharing, patient information sharing on blockchain technology. And we are going to have a workshop very soon in January between Estonia, Ireland, and India in Kanpur actually. So that's more or less a summary of what I have been doing. We have been doing in blockchain space at IIT Kanpur. There is a lot of other activities in the country. We are aware of various other projects and so on. And there is also a lot of noise about crypto regulation and all that stuff, which has not happened, and which is kind of in a limbo. So, but in general, blockchain technology, the initial euphoria about blockchain has kind of subsided, but there is still interest in the government and in the industry to see how we can leverage blockchain technology in a meaningful way, so that it is not just for doing blockchain for doing something new, but it is where blockchain actually makes real sense, and that's where we are.
Thank you very much, Sandeep. That was Sandeep Shukla from IIT India. We now welcome Professor Micheler, Eva Micheler. Eva, please go ahead. Thank you.
Unmute myself, yes. Good morning, at least my time. My name is Eva Micheler. I'm a professor at the Law School of the London School of Economics. And I've been working on blockchain since 2014. So I'm interested in the technology from a legal perspective, and there are several angles from which I've contributed. So the first one was an article where I discussed the system that we currently have for holding securities and for exercising rights from securities. And the thesis of the paper was to show that issuers and investors are not very well connected by the current market infrastructure. So that paper concluded by saying perhaps crypto securities would be a way of making a better connection. And then I looked more deeply into this and discovered that one reason why we have the current infrastructure is that the intermediaries have a very viable business model that prevents them from providing better connections between issuers and investors. And that includes that they organize securities lending, that they pool securities, that outsourcing is happening for sort of compliance and regulatory reasons. So the most recent paper is one of, together with Elena Zakaria from Brunel University, looking at how do market participants feel about this? So that was qualitative empirical work in the form of semi-structured interviews. And in the course of that, we also looked at the current UK project, the Digital Securities Sandbox, which is a recent project. And what we find is that the market seems to reproduce itself. So it's intermediated and it continues to be intermediated. So it is very difficult to find a business model that helps to build an infrastructure that better connects issuers and investors. And that is slightly puzzling because the technology works, but there is not enough of a business case, it seems, for it. The other thing I'm working on are decentralized autonomous organizations. So that's a paper for a book that's forthcoming with Oxford University Press. That's together with Kevin Werbach from Wharton Business School, and Bianca Kramer, who is also at Wharton. And we are and my own contribution is to look at decentralized organizations from the perspective of the theory of the firm. So that the paper that I'm writing together with Daniela Gandorfer, she's my co-author, and we are asking the question of to what extent do decentralized organizations replicate organizations, and are they in any way special? What has happened to them now after a few years? Are we actually here reinventing the wheel? And then I'm also interested in the legal nature of securities, of digital assets. And there's been recent work in the UK where there's a new law that characterizes them as property. There's also been legislative work in Germany. And so I'm interested in understanding how these assets integrate into property law and what kind of accommodations the law, if any, needs to make to deal with them in an adequate way. And then finally, very last point, this is some time ago, I wrote a paper on regulatory technology, and that was the question of using distributed ledger technology for regulatory reporting, and that was together with the UCL Blockchain Center. That was very exciting. And that's been a successful paper, which is cited a lot. And that's, yeah, me on my work in the area.
Thank you very much, Eva. That was excellent. Very nice summary of the amazing work that you have been doing. I suppose we have some time maybe for a question. And I will invite everyone from this panel. Just give me 1 second. So the speakers in this session, so Locknie, Sadek, Avinash, Eva, Sandeep, you talked about trade and e-commerce application of blockchain in Singapore. Sadek mentioned about self-sovereign identity. Sandeep mentioned about so many different use cases, land registry to tokenization and others. Eva also talked about DAOs and governance. The question, I suppose, is for academics, for PhD students, MSc students, what role should academics play in shaping the policy and regulation for particularly in trade, commerce, and other public services use cases in terms of actual practical applications, areas for research? Comments? Anyone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Just to share a little bit from my vantage point, as I mentioned, I look at the cross-border trade side of things. I think if you are looking for juicy things to think about in research, there actually are gaps in legal understanding of some of the newer concepts. So, for example, we have this concept in this model law that I talked about, which relates to facilitating the use of technologies like DLT in cross-border documents, right? There's a legal term that's in the legislation commonly adopted called reliable or reliability. So because all this is very new, I'm not aware that it's ever been litigated or interpreted, excuse me, in any court of law yet. So there's some interesting work that can be done. There's some thoughts that are emerging already in the academic space on what that could mean, what could be useful to provide more certainty to the application of words like that in the new legislation that deals with electronic documents that are based on blockchain or DLT. So I mean, I think the point I'm simply trying to make is just the newer terms. What are some interpretative assistance or aids that could be proposed, for example, by the legal community to help create greater certainty and trust in the use of these instruments in the implementation of these new laws that promote their use. So maybe I'll just leave it at that and add on if there's any further question.
I think that's a good point. The new terminologies that are now coming in with blockchain and DLT, do we think that it is slightly difficult for policymakers and regulators to understand the taxonomy, the grasp of it, something that we are all very familiar with, but when we talk to them, sometimes it's a bit difficult. Any comments?
Well, so I can report from the UK that the courts have recognized digital assets as property in a number of contexts. And there has been recent legislation supporting that conclusion. So I think I agree, though, that one area of growth is indeed cross-border trade and digital trade documents, for which there's also a piece of legislation in the UK. I think that seems to be an area where savings can be made, and there also seems to be an interest of the industry. I mean, let me add my own, the question was originally what kind of research would be useful. I think from a sort of high level perspective, research on how does technological change work? Like, why is it that we've had blockchain for so long, yet there aren't any real use cases? I mean, there are cases that demonstrate that the technology can work, but I don't see in the space that I'm in, and I'm very keen to hear from others if I'm wrong, that there hasn't been a wide adoption. So projects didn't go much beyond we can actually do it and we can do it well. And then the willingness dries up to implement them. And maybe trade documents are going to be the exception. I don't know, but I'm really interested in hearing if I'm wrong.
If I may add something from a developing country, especially from a small island of Mauritius. In fact, here our financial sector is kind of like one pillar of our economy. And in fact, since there are those disruptive technology, one aspect that we are working, and in fact, in Mauritius, they just set up what is known as the Innovative Council, just to know those disruptive technology, how can it help? And in terms of digital asset, this is one important aspect that it's currently being taken up here in Mauritius. And also, while you're talking about the legislation, here we need to be compliant with the GDPR. And one aspect that here we are focusing a lot, how those digital assets can be compliant to those legislative aspects. So from our perspective, in fact, well, since from the UK, you're kind of like a step ahead, but from us, we found that those technologies will help us, not just for your country, but in fact for the African country. We are very close because we have a lot of investments that come through us, but then there is this traceability aspect that we need to keep track. And from our perspective, blockchain is kind of like one of those eminent technologies that we need to put in place. Perhaps it won't be used. Okay, we can say from your perspective, it won't be used, but from our perspective, we can showcase that, yeah, if you still would like to track your digital asset passing through us, but we do have those traceability aspect, which can position us in terms of the financial position. So here, from our perspective, those disruptive technology are quite useful from our perspective. Yeah.
Sadek, any update on self-sovereign identity front from Bangladesh?
Yeah, so yeah, that's what I wanted to add. Just to add or answer what Eva said, that not surprisingly, the identity actually is the domain where blockchain has been used. If you are familiar with the incoming or oncoming European self-sovereign identity framework, So they are trying to establish this SSI framework all over the EU region. And surprisingly, it is another surprise that Bhutan has actually also adopted a similar SSI-based identity solutions for their country. So this is not a surprise because identity acts as the foundation of all other services that you are planning to provide on blockchain. So maybe this will create the foundations upon which more adoptions could be realized.
Indeed.
May I just add a quick point, Professor Naseem?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, just to follow the earlier remarks, I think in my region, in particular, there is a very real digital divide. So the question about how to get everyone on board, if we're talking about using the blockchain technology for cross-border trade documents and so on, is a real challenge because first, there is a need, I think, to build awareness and understanding of the technology, how it works amongst the policy makers as well as the potential users, the private sector parties. So that's a real challenge. And in terms of, it's not so much a legal question in this sense, it's a question of how in terms of the infrastructure or knowledge of the technology and the policies that need to surround it to make it work, can be built, better built, or to be advanced. Just wanted to add that thought. Thank you.
Indeed. Good point. Yes. I think we may have time for one last quick question. Careers in blockchain. There was a question that was asked earlier. Career pathways. I suppose that depends really. Which department you join, what are your interests? But I believe most universities are supporting students and researchers who are willing to work on blockchain distributed ledger technologies. Avinash, you mentioned about support one of the largest public university in Mauritius. Is that something that you welcome for students, researchers willing to do research in this area?
Indeed. Since we are kind of like developing island as well, and also in order to kind of like try to build our resources, this is where we welcome kind of like collaboration with industry partners. Like I already mentioned earlier, we did mount this particular program with Oracle for training our students as well as faculty member in artificial intelligence, machine learning, and blockchain. And also we do get a lot of support from industry members such as IBM, such as Huawei as well, because they do know that strategically speaking, where Mauritius is situated, it's kind of like the gateway for the African continent. So they found the opportunity to come to us to be able to provide us with the support that is required. And in terms of putting how do you say, knowledge to us, it's very important because then we can share it when we go to the university in Africa. We can leverage on the knowledge that we receive over here. So there's kind of like a good synergy, to be honest. And also, we do have our ICT sector, which is booming, inverted commas, because each time we are faced with, we need to have graduate in such and such technology. So, and one aspect with regards to blockchain will be that we do work a lot with PwC, the PricewaterhouseCoopers, which is here in Mauritius, and which was surprising to me, to be honest. Each time they come, since they are in kind of like the financial and legal aspect, but they do require students from computer science to perform auditing, the auditing aspect, and they do find that some industry are using disruptive technology. So how do they manage those disruptive technology? And they come to us to search for students or to train those students in such aspects. So it's kind of like there's a synergy going on over here from our point of view. Yeah.
Excellent. Amazing. Very good. Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. Eva, Avinash, Sadek, Locknie, for joining us and giving your time. Very useful. So we'll take a short break and then we'll be back in about 10 minutes with the next session. Those of you who've joined just now, this was the second session. So the third session will start in about 10 minutes, 10 a.m. UK time. And we'll see you shortly. You can take a short break, have a cup of coffee, and come back. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.